The entire pack held its breath. The moment was supposed to be history in the making, the crowning of a new Luna who would usher in a golden age for the Silver Moon pack. But history was made in a way no one expected. Not by the Alpha, and certainly not by the woman kneeling to receive the crown. It was made by a 5-year-old boy with tear-filled eyes and a heart that saw what the adults were too blind to notice. When Alpha Caleb lowered that crown, he didn't expect his son to scream, snatch the diamonds from his hands, and run to the back of the room, straight to the feet of the dirtiest, most despised Omega in the hall. This is the story of how a child's instinct shattered a kingdom of lies. The grand hall of the Silver Moon pack was suffocating. It smelled of expensive perfume, nervous sweat, and the heavy metallic scent of impending doom. To the outside world, this was a celebration. Crystal chandeliers imported from France cast a fracturing light over 300 guests. Velvet banners in deep midnight blue hung from the rafters embroidered with the silver crescent. Alpha Caleb Sterling stood on the dais, his broad shoulders encased in a ceremonial black suit that cost more than most pack members earned in a decade. He was a handsome man, with a jawline carved from granite and eyes the color of a stormy sea. But tonight those eyes were dull. They lacked the fire that had once made him the most feared Alpha on the East Coast. Since the death of his first mate Lydia 3 years ago, Caleb had been a ghost haunting his own castle. He had led the pack on autopilot, his heart buried 6 feet under. But the pack needed a Luna. The elders had whispered it, then demanded it. A pack without a mother figure was vulnerable. A pack without a feminine balance to the Alpha's aggression was unstable. And so Caleb had chosen, or rather he had allowed himself to be chosen by the only woman who seemed capable of handling the politics of their world, Vanessa Thorne. Vanessa knelt before him now. She was undeniably beautiful. Her blonde hair was styled in intricate waves. Her skin was porcelain perfect, and her dress was a shimmering cascade of white silk that hugged her curves. She looked every inch a queen. But to those with sharp senses, the scent coming off her wasn't comforting. It was cloying, like flowers left too long in a vase, sweet, but masking the smell of rot. "Do you?" Elder Thomas intoned his voice, raspy with age. "Vanessa Thorne, pledge your life, your body and your spirit to the Silver Moon pack, to nurture its young, to guide its warriors, and to stand beside Alpha Caleb Sterling until your last breath." Vanessa looked up, her eyelashes fluttering with practiced modesty. "I do," she whispered, her voice carrying perfectly to the back of the room. Caleb looked down at her. He tried to feel something. Love, lust, even affection. He felt nothing but a cold duty. He reached for the Luna's crown, resting on the velvet pillow held by Beta Marcus. The crown was ancient white gold, intertwined with moonstones and raw diamonds. It was heavy with history. "Then by the power vested in me by the moon goddess and the council," Caleb said, his voice deep and void of emotion, "I crown you." He lifted the heavy circlet. The crowd leaned forward. This was it. The moment the pack would be secure again. But in the front row, sitting on a small, uncomfortable wooden chair, was a 5-year-old boy. Leo Sterling, the Alpha's heir. Leo was small for his age, with messy dark hair and his father's stormy eyes. He was dressed in a miniature suit that he clearly hated, fidgeting constantly. While everyone watched Vanessa with adoration or envy, Leo watched her with terror. He saw the way her lips twitched into a smirk when Caleb wasn't looking. He remembered the way her long, manicured nails felt when she gripped his arm too tight when the nannies weren't around. He looked around the room, desperate. His eyes scanned the sea of faces until they landed on the far back corner near the kitchen doors. There, standing in the shadows, dressed in a grey, shapeless servant's uniform, was Elara. Elara Vance, the Omega. She wasn't supposed to be here. Omegas were meant to be scrubbing the floors or preparing the feast, not watching the ceremony. But Leo had begged her to come. She stood with her hands clasped tightly in front of her, her head bowed in submission, trying to make herself invisible. She had no makeup. Her brown hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her hands were red from harsh detergents. But when Leo looked at her, he didn't see an Omega. He saw the warm lap he crawled into when thunder shook the castle. He saw the hands that snuck him sandwiches when Vanessa sent him to bed without dinner. He saw the only mother he had ever really known. Caleb lowered the crown. It was inches from Vanessa's head. Leo's heart hammered against his little ribs. He couldn't let it happen. He didn't know the politics. He didn't know about treaties or bloodlines. He just knew that the woman kneeling there was a monster, and the woman in the back was home. No. The scream shattered the silence like a gunshot. Caleb froze. The crown hovered in mid-air. Vanessa's head snapped up her mask of serenity, cracking for a split second to reveal a flash of pure annoyance. Leo jumped off his chair. "No, Daddy, no. Leo." Caleb frowned, his brow furrowing. "Sit down, son. Not now." "She's bad," Leo shouted, pointing a shaking finger at Vanessa. "She's a witch. Don't give it to her." The crowd gasped. Whispers erupted like wildfire. "The air is rejecting the Luna. This is an omen." Vanessa laughed, a tinkling, nervous sound. "Oh, the poor darling, he's overtired. The excitement is too much for him." She reached out a hand toward Leo. "Come here, sweetie. Come to Mommy." That was the wrong word to use. "You're not my mommy," Leo shrieked, and then he did the unthinkable. As Caleb stood paralyzed by confusion, Leo scrambled up the steps of the dais. He was fast fueled by adrenaline. Before Caleb could react, Leo jumped up and swatted the heavy gold crown out of his father's hands. Clang! The sound of the ancient relic hitting the marble floor echoed through the hall. A diamond popped loose and skittered away. Total silence. You could hear a pin drop. Alpha Caleb looked at his empty hands, then at the crown lying on the floor. His eyes turned to his son, blazing with sudden anger. "Leo, what have you done?" But Leo didn't answer. He bent down, picked up the heavy crown with both hands. It was almost too big for him to hold, and turned around. He didn't run to his father. He didn't run to his room. He ran down the aisle, past the shocked Beta, past the gasping elders, past the whispering high society guests. He ran straight to the back of the room. The crowd parted for the Alpha's son, confusion rippling through them. Caleb, snapping out of his shock, stepped off the dais and followed his son, his stride long and dangerous. Vanessa scrambled up her face, red with humiliation, and followed Caleb. "Leo!" Caleb roared. Leo ignored him. He ran until he reached the shadows near the kitchen doors. He stopped in front of the grey-clad figure, who looked ready to faint from terror. Elara's eyes went wide. "Leo, no," she whispered, looking past him at the furious Alpha approaching. "Baby, please go back to your father." You, Leo panted, his chest heaving. He looked up at her, his eyes full of absolute trust. You are the Luna. You love me. And with a clumsy, desperate motion, he shoved the heavy, crooked crown onto Ilara's head. It was too big. It slid down, resting comically on her ears, messing up her severe bun. It looked ridiculous. It looked treasonous. And yet, as the gold touched her skin, a strange thing happened. A hum went through the room. The air pressure dropped. For a second, Ilara didn't look like a scrubbing maid. She stood straight, her chin lifting instinctively to support the weight. Caleb stopped 5 feet away. He stared. He stared at the Omega, the woman he had barely looked at in 3 years. The woman who cleaned his muddy boots and washed his dishes. He saw the crown on her head. He saw his son clinging to her leg, burying his face in her dirty apron, sobbing. And he saw Vanessa standing behind him, her face twisted into a mask of such pure, unadulterated hatred that it chilled his blood. "Take it off," Vanessa screeched, losing all composure. "Take that holy thing off that damned filth this instant." Ilara reached up with trembling hands to remove it, tears streaming down her face. "Alpha, I didn't." "Don't touch it," Caleb said. His voice was quiet, but it carried more power than a shout. He wasn't looking at the crown anymore. He was looking at Ilara's eyes. They were hazel flecked with gold. And for the first time, he realized they were the exact same shade of gold as the wolf inside him. The recognition was a punch to the gut. "Mate." The word mate didn't scream in Caleb's head. It whispered like a forgotten memory resurfacing. He blinked, shaking his head slightly, as if to clear a fog. How had he missed this? He had walked past this woman 1,000 times in the hallways of the pack house. He had smelled the lemon polish and bleach on her, but never her. Until now. With the crown on her head, the magical barrier that seemingly hid her scent dissolved. The smell hit him like a freight train, vanilla rain and wild honey. "Alpha!" Beta Marcus stepped forward, his hand on his stun baton, eyeing Ilara as if she were an assassin. "Orders, should I arrest the Omega for theft?" "No," Caleb said, his voice rough. Vanessa pushed past Caleb, her silk dress rustling aggressively. She didn't care about cents or bonds. She cared about the humiliation burning her cheeks. "Are you insane, Caleb? Look at what she's done. She's bewitched the boy. She's clearly been manipulating him behind our backs." She marched up to Ilara and raised her hand to strike. "You dirty little rat! How dare you!" "Don't touch her!" Leo screamed, stepping between Ilara and Vanessa. He was 5 years old, but he bared his teeth like a wolf pup. "You hit me, but you won't hit her." The hall gasped again. Caleb's head snapped toward his son. "What did you say?" Leo was trembling, but he stood his ground. "She pinches me," Leo cried, pointing at Vanessa. "She locks me in the closet when you're at meetings. She says if I tell you she'll send me to the orphanage." Vanessa's face went pale. "He's lying, Caleb. He's a child. He's imagining things. He's having a tantrum because he misses his mother, and this servant has been feeding him lies." Vanessa lunged for the crown still perched on Ilara's head. Ilara flinched instinctively, curling her body around Leo to protect him. Caleb moved faster than human sight. One moment he was standing 5 feet away. The next his hand was wrapped around Vanessa's wrist, stopping her strike inches from Ilara's face. "Caleb," Vanessa squeaked her eyes wide. "You're hurting me." "My son," Caleb said, his voice dropping to a low growl that made the wolves in the room bare their necks in submission. "Said you hit him. Is that true?" "Of course not," Vanessa sobbed, tears instantly springing to her eyes. "I love him like my own. This Omega has brainwashed him. Look at her. She's probably poisoning him." Caleb looked at Alara. She was shaking like a leaf. She gently lifted the crown from her head, her hands reverent and terrified, and held it out to Caleb. "Please, Alpha," Alara whispered, her voice melodic and soft. "I didn't ask for this. Please. I just want to protect Leo. He's had a hard week." "Why did he run to you?" Caleb asked, ignoring the crown she was offering. He stepped closer. The scent of vanilla and honey was intoxicating. He wanted to bury his nose in her neck, which was insane. He was burying a wife, crowning a new one, and staring at a maid. I was his nanny, sir. Before I was reassigned to the kitchens last month," Alara said, her eyes downcast. "Reassigned?" Caleb frowned. "Who reassigned you?" Alara hesitated, her eyes flickering briefly to Vanessa. "I did," Vanessa snapped, trying to yank her wrist free from Caleb's grip. She was incompetent. She was letting the boy eat junk food and skip his lessons. "I put her where she belongs." "She read me stories," Leo yelled. "She sang to me. You fired her because I loved her more than you." The truth hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Children, especially wolf pups, rarely lied about matters of the heart. Caleb took the crown from Alara. He looked at it, then at Vanessa. The ceremony was ruined. The trust was broken. But he couldn't just accuse his fiancée based on a child's outburst. Could he? Vanessa came from a powerful family. The Thorn Pack was their strongest ally. Humiliating her could start a war. But the mate bond, it was pulsing in his veins, getting stronger by the second. "The ceremony is over," Caleb announced, his voice booming through the hall. "Clear the room." "Caleb," Vanessa shrieked. "You can't do this to me. We have guests. The press is outside." "I said clear the room," Caleb roared, his eyes flashing amber. The guests didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled for the exits, murmuring and texting on their phones. "Marcus!" Caleb barked at his beta. "Escort Lady Vanessa to the guest wing. She is not to leave until I speak with her." "You're treating me like a prisoner." Vanessa hissed, her beautiful face now ugly with malice. "You'll regret this, Caleb. My father will hear of this insult." "If you touched my son," Caleb said softly, "your father won't be able to save you." Vanessa stormed off, her heels clicking on the marble. Caleb turned back to Alara. She was still kneeling, holding Leo, who had buried his face in her neck. Caleb felt a pang of jealousy that his son found comfort there and not with him. "Stand up," Caleb said. Alara stood, her knees shaking. She was tall, he realized. Under the shapeless grey dress, she had a grace that didn't match her station. "What is your full name?" he asked. "Alara Vance Alpha." Vance. Caleb searched his memory. "I don't know that bloodline. I have no Pack Alpha. I was taken in as a rogue 3 years ago." A rogue. The lowest of the low. A wolf without a family, usually due to crime or exile. "Take the boy to his room," Caleb ordered, his internal conflict raging. "Stay with him. If he wants you, he gets you. For tonight." "Yes, Alpha." Alara dipped her head. She took Leo's hand. "Come on, little wolf. Let's go get you some hot cocoa." As she walked away, Caleb watched her. He saw the way she limped slightly on her left leg. He saw the bruises on her arms that the uniform couldn't quite hide, faint yellowing marks. "Marcus," Caleb said to his beta, who was standing beside him, staring at the empty doorway. "Alpha, bring me Ilara Vance's personnel file, and bring me the security footage from the nursery for the last 3 months." Caleb's eyes darkened. "I want to know exactly what has been happening in my house while I was asleep at the wheel." The file on Ilara Vance was suspiciously thin. Caleb sat in his office, a glass of amber whiskey, untouched on his mahogany desk. The grandfather clock ticked loudly in the corner, marking 200 a.m. The castle was quiet, but Caleb's mind was a hurricane. Ilara Vance, age 24, origin unknown, status Omega, assigned to general cleaning, previous assignment nursery assistant. There were no notes on her disciplinary history, no notes on why she was demoted, just a signature at the bottom of the transfer order, Vanessa Thorne. Caleb rubbed his temples. The mate bond was a persistent itch under his skin. Every instinct he had was screaming at him to go to Leo's room, to kick down the door, and to claim the woman sleeping on the floor beside his son's bed. But he was a rational man. He was a king. He couldn't just claim a rogue Omega because of a biological urge. Or could he? The door to his office creaked open. Beta Marcus walked in, his face grim. He was holding a tablet. "You're not going to like this, Caleb." "Show me," Caleb said, bracing himself. Marcus placed the tablet on the desk. "I pulled the cloud backups. It seems Vanessa or someone working for her deleted the local files, but they forgot the off-site server backs up every 24 hours. Caleb pressed play. The video was grainy, stamped with a date from 2 weeks ago. It showed the nursery. Leo was sitting at a small table, drawing. Vanessa entered the room. On screen, Vanessa didn't look like the poised future Luna. She looked agitated. She paced around the room, talking on her cell phone. "I don't care if the poison is undetectable. It's taking too long," Vanessa hissed into the phone. Caleb froze. He leaned closer to the screen. "The Alpha is still healthy," Vanessa continued. "He needs to be weak enough to sign the transfer of the land deeds to my father, but not dead yet. If he dies before the wedding, I get nothing." Caleb felt the blood drain from his face. She wasn't just mean to his son. She was planning a coup. She was poisoning him. On the screen, Leo looked up. "Who are you talking to?" Vanessa snapped the phone shut. She walked over to the boy. "Shut up, you little brat!" She grabbed his arm hard. Caleb saw Leo wince. "If you tell your daddy anything, I'll tell him you broke his favorite statue. I'll tell him you're a bad boy, and he should send you away." Leo started to cry. "I want Ilara." "Ilara is gone," Vanessa sneered. "She's scrubbing toilets because of you. And if you keep crying, I'll make sure she's thrown out into the woods to be eaten by the rogues." Caleb slammed his fist onto the desk. The heavy wood cracked down the middle. "I'm going to kill her." Caleb snarled, his eyes shifting fully to the glowing amber of his wolf. "I'm going to rip her throat out." "Wait," Marcus said, putting a hand on Caleb's shoulder. "There's more. Watch the next clip." Caleb forced himself to look. The next clip was from the hallway. It showed Ilara. She was confronting Vanessa. "You can't treat him like that," Ilara was saying, her voice shaking but firm. He's a child. He's grieving. You forget your place, Omega, Vanessa spat. You are nothing. A stray dog we took in. I may be an Omega, Elara said, standing tall. But I know what honor is. If I see a bruise on him again, I will go to the Alpha. I don't care what you do to me. Vanessa laughed. Go to him. See if he believes the mute little cleaner over the daughter of Alpha Thorn. But fine. You want to be a hero. You're fired from the nursery. Enjoy the scullery. Caleb stopped the video. He felt sick. He had let this happen. In his grief for Lydia, he had abandoned his son to a viper and allowed the only person defending him to be humiliated. Where is Vanessa now? Caleb asked, his voice deadly calm. In the guest wing guarded by 2 enforcers, Marcus replied. Double the guard, lock the windows, no one goes in or out, and cut her phone signal. Understood. And Elara. Caleb stood up. I need to speak to her. Now. She's in Leo's room, asleep. Caleb walked out of the office, his strides eating up the distance to the family wing. He didn't know what he was going to say. He just knew he needed to be near her. He needed to apologize, and he needed to know why a woman with the fire to stand up to a Luna was hiding as a servant. He reached Leo's door and pushed it open quietly. The room was illuminated by a nightlight. Leo was tucked into his bed, fast asleep, clutching a stuffed wolf, and there, curled up on the rug beside the bed, was Elara. She didn't have a pillow. She had given hers to Leo. She was shivering slightly in the drafty room. Caleb's heart clenched. He walked over, intending to wake her gently, but as he got closer he noticed something. Her sleeve had ridden up. On her forearm there was a mark. A birthmark, numb. It was a brand. A scar. He knelt down, careful not to wake her, and gently pulled her sleeve up. The scar was a symbol, a circle with a jagged line through it. Caleb gasped. He knew that symbol. Every Alpha on the continent knew that symbol. It was the crest of the Blood Moon Pack, the royal family that had been massacred 10 years ago in a rogue uprising. The princess of that pack had been missing, presumed dead. Her name wasn't Elara Vance. Her name was Elara Sterling. That wasn't right. Her name was Elara Blackwood. She wasn't a rogue. She was royalty. She was a high Alpha by blood, hiding as a maid in his kitchen. Elara stirred. Her eyes fluttered open. When she saw Caleb kneeling over her, she panicked, scrambling backward until her back hit the nightstand. Alpha, I'm sorry, I fell asleep. I didn't mean to. Elara, Caleb whispered, raising his hands in surrender. Peace. I'm not going to hurt you. She was breathing hard, her eyes darting to the door. Did Lady Vanessa send you? Vanessa is under arrest, Caleb said. Elara froze. What? My son told the truth, and I found proof. Caleb looked at her arm, then met her eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? She feigned ignorance, pulling her sleeve down. That I have a princess scrubbing my floors. The color drained from Elara's face completely. You can't tell anyone, she begged, her voice a terrified whisper. Please, Alpha Caleb. If they know I'm alive, they will come back to finish what they started. They will kill me, and they will kill anyone harboring me. Caleb reached out and took her hand. The sparks of the mate bond flew between them, undeniable this time. Elara gasped, looking down at their joined hands. You felt it too, Caleb said softly. I've felt it for 3 years, Elara admitted, tears spilling over. Since the day I walked into your territory. But you were married, and then you were grieving, and I am a ghost. A ghost cannot have a mate." "You are not a ghost," Caleb said, his grip tightening. "You are my mate. You are the savior of my son. And as of this moment," he reached into his pocket. He had picked up the diamond that had fallen from the crown in the hall. He pressed the cold stone into her palm. "You are under my protection. The Blood Moon hunters may still be out there, Elara, but they have never faced the Silver Moon Alpha when he is fighting for his family." "Caleb," she breathed, using his name for the first time. "Rest," he commanded gently. "Tomorrow war begins. Vanessa's father will come for her, and he will likely bring an army." The dawn didn't bring sunlight. It brought a wall of black SUVs. The Silver Moon territory was vast, encompassing 3,000 acres of dense forest and rocky hills. But there was only one main entrance for vehicles, the Iron Bridge. It was a massive steel structure spanning the roaring Serpent River. By 6:00 a.m., the bridge was blocked. Caleb stood in the Pax War Room, a high-tech bunker beneath the main house. A wall of monitors showed the live feed from the bridge. "Count them," Caleb ordered, his voice tight. He hadn't slept. The revelation of Elara's identity and the betrayal of Vanessa had kept his wolf pacing inside his mind all night. 12 armored vehicles, Beta Marcus reported, tapping a screen. And 2 transport trucks. That's Alpha Magnus Thorn's personal guard. We're looking at maybe 50 fully shifted warriors, plus whatever mercenaries he's hired. Alpha Magnus Thorn, Vanessa's father. He was a man who didn't run a pack. He ran a cartel. He owned politicians, shipping lines, and half the real estate on the coast. He was the kind of alpha who wore Italian suits while he ordered executions. "He's not attacking yet," Caleb observed. "He's parking. He wants a meeting." "He wants his daughter," Marcus corrected, "and he wants your head for arresting her." "He can have neither." Caleb turned away from the screen. "Is Elara safe?" "She's in the safe room with Leo," Marcus said, "guarded by your 2 best enforcers, Jax and Riley." "But Alpha, she's pacing. She wants to help." "She helps by staying alive," Caleb growled. "If Magnus sees her, he'll recognize her. If he realizes the heir to the Blood Moon pack is alive, he won't just blockade us. He'll burn this entire territory to the ground to get to her. The bounty on her head is higher than the GDP of a small country." "Sir," the comms officer interrupted. "Incoming call. Secure line. It's Thorn." Caleb pressed a button on the console. "Put him on." The main screen flickered, and the face of Magnus Thorn appeared. He was an older version of Vanessa Cold Sharp, with silver hair slicked back and eyes like chips of ice. "Caleb," Magnus said smoothly, "I hear you've had a rough night. A child's tantrum ruined a perfectly good ceremony." "Your daughter is in a cell, Magnus," Caleb said, cutting the pleasantries. "I have video evidence of her abusing my son and conspiring to poison me to seize my assets." Magnus didn't even blink. He didn't look shocked. He looked bored. "Abuse is a strong word," Magnus said, examining his fingernails. "Discipline is necessary for a boy who runs wild. As for the conspiracy, well, Vanessa always was ambitious. It's a trait I admire, even if her execution was sloppy." Caleb's hands balled into fists. "You admit it. You sent her here to kill me." "I sent her here to secure an alliance," Magnus said. "How she achieved that was up to her. But that's irrelevant now. You have embarrassed my family. You have publicly rejected a Thorn." That carries a price. The price is war, Caleb said. It doesn't have to be. Magnus smiled, a predator showing teeth. I'm a businessman, Caleb. I'm willing to overlook the insult. I'll even let you keep your little life. All you have to do is release Vanessa, immediately drop all charges, and sign the border treaty giving me access to your northern timberlands. And if I refuse, look out your window. Caleb didn't need to look. He knew what was out there. I'll give you 1 hour, Magnus said. If Vanessa isn't walking across that bridge by 7:30 a.m., my men will cross it. And we won't be coming for tea. The screen went black. The war room was silent. We can't fight them on the bridge, Marcus said quietly. We're outnumbered. Our warriors are strong, but Thorn has military-grade gear. If they breach the perimeter, we need leverage, Caleb said. The door to the war room hissed open. I can give you leverage. Caleb spun around. Elara stood there. She wasn't wearing the maid's uniform anymore. She was wearing a pair of black tactical cargo pants and a fitted shirt she must have scavenged from the armory. Her hair was braided back tightly. She didn't look like a victim. She looked like a soldier. I told you to stay with Leo. Caleb snapped, though his heart hammered at the sight of her. Leo is playing video games with Jax, Elara said, walking past the stunned Beta to the strategy table. She pointed at the map of the bridge. Thorn isn't going to attack the bridge directly. That's a distraction. What do you mean? Marcus asked, looking from Elara to Caleb. I know Magnus Thorn. Elara said, her voice hard. He fought my father. She stopped catching herself. He fought past packs I've worked for. He's classic misdirection. He parks the heavy armor at the front door, so you send all your troops there. Meanwhile, he sends a strike team of swimmers up the river to breach the rear water intake. Caleb narrowed his eyes. The river is freezing and the current is Class 5 rapids. No wolf can swim that in human form, and in wolf form they drown. They don't swim, Elara corrected. They use submersibles, drone divers. Thorn invests heavily in tech. While you're staring at the SUVs, 5 men are cutting through the grate in the pump room right now. Caleb stared at her. The specific knowledge was terrifying. It was the kind of tactical insight only a general or an alpha's daughter would have. Marcus, Caleb barked. Send Unit 4 to the pump room. Silent approach. If she's right, you'll find them cutting the grate. On it, Marcus said, sprinting out of the room. Caleb turned to Elara. If you're wrong, I'm pulling men away from the front line. I'm not wrong, she said simply. 10 minutes later, the radio crackled. Alpha, this is Unit 4. We intercepted 6 hostiles in the pump room. They had explosives wired to the main supports. We neutralized them. The target was the foundation of the house. Caleb let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He looked at Elara. She was trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of revisiting old nightmares. You saved us, Caleb said. He was going to bring the house down with us inside. That's how he took the Blood Moon pack. Elara whispered, her eyes distant. He didn't fight them in the field. He blew up the dam and flooded the valley while they slept. He doesn't fight with honor, Caleb. He fights to exterminate. Caleb walked over and placed his hands on her shoulders. He won't exterminate us, because I have you. He doesn't know you have me, Elara said. If he did, we use that, Caleb said, a plan forming in his mind. He thinks he's fighting a grieving, distracted alpha. He doesn't know he's fighting a mated pair. We're not mated yet, Elara murmured, blushing. Not officially. My wolf disagrees, Caleb rumbled. But right now, we need to stall him. I'm going to the bridge. No. Elara grabbed his arm. That's what he wants. A duel. He'll have a sniper in the trees. I'm not going alone, Caleb said. I'm taking Vanessa. The wind on the iron bridge was biting. Caleb walked to the center, dragging a stumbling handcuffed Vanessa with him. She looked a mess, mascara running hair matted, wearing the same silk dress from the night before. Across the divide, Magnus Thorne stood by his limousine, flanked by 4 massive men, holding assault rifles. "Daddy!" Vanessa screamed when she saw him. "Daddy, kill him! He hurt me!" Magnus raised a hand, silencing her. He looked at Caleb. "I see you're punctual. Let her go and we can discuss the Timberlands." "There is no discussion," Caleb shouted over the wind. "Your strike team in the pump room is dead, Magnus. All 6 of them. I'm sending their bodies down the river back to you." Magnus's face twitched. It was the first crack in his armor. "You're smarter than you look, Caleb, or someone is helping you." "I know how you operate," Caleb said. "I know about the dam at Blood Moon. I know about the fires at the Crestwood border." Magnus stiffened. "You seem to have become a historian." "I'm a man protecting his family," Caleb said. He pulled Vanessa roughly. "You want her back?" "Take her. She's useless to me. She's admitted to everything on camera. If you attack my pack, I release the footage to the council. You'll lose your seat on the high table. You'll be investigated for attempted regicide." It was a bluff. The council was corrupt. They likely wouldn't care. But Magnus hated It's bad for business. Magnus weighed his options. The surprise attack failed. The leverage of the blockade was weakening if Caleb was willing to trade. "Send her over," Magnus called out. "And we will leave. For today." Caleb uncuffed Vanessa. "Go." Vanessa scrambled away, running toward her father in her high heels. She reached Magnus, sobbing, expecting a hug. Magnus didn't hug her. He slapped her across the face, a sharp crack that echoed across the bridge. "You failed," Magnus hissed at her, loud enough for Caleb to hear. "Get in the car." Magnus turned back to Caleb. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You got lucky, Sterling. Check your water supply." Caleb frowned. "What? The strike team wasn't just there to plant bombs," Magnus said as he got into his car. "They were the backup plan. The primary plan was initiated 3 days ago by my daughter." Magnus slammed the car door. The convoy turned around with military precision and began to drive away. Caleb stood on the bridge, the wind howling. "Check your water supply." He grabbed his radio. "Marcus, shut down the main wells. Don't let anyone drink from the taps." But as he turned to run back to the house, his vision blurred. His legs felt like lead. He stumbled, catching himself on the railing. A sharp pain exploded in his chest, radiating down his left arm. It wasn't the water. He remembered the glass of whiskey on his desk last night. The one he hadn't touched until just before he left for the bridge. He had taken a single sip to steady his nerves. Vanessa. She must have dosed the decanter days ago. Caleb's knees hit the asphalt. The world tilted sideways. He saw Elara running toward him from the pack house gates, screaming his name, but he couldn't hear her. The darkness swallowed him whole. The pack hospital was in chaos. Doctors and nurses rushed back and forth, shouting medical jargon that sounded like a foreign language to the terrified observers. In the center of the trauma room, Alpha Caleb lay on a metal table stripped to the waist. His skin was a sickly shade of grey, and black veins were spiderwebbing out from his heart, crawling up his neck like living ink. Dr. Henry Arris, the pack's chief physician, was sweating profusely. He held a syringe of adrenaline, but he hesitated. "His heart rate is dropping too fast," Dr. Henry yelled. 30 beats per minute. If I give him adrenaline, the toxin might accelerate. If I don't, his heart stops. Elara stood in the corner holding Leo. The boy was sobbing quietly, his face buried in her stomach. She was rocking him, whispering soothing words, but her own eyes were locked on Caleb. She could smell the poison. It wasn't chemical. It was alchemical. It smelled like burnt sugar and decay. "What is it?" Beta Marcus demanded, grabbing the doctor by the scrubs. "Fix him, Henry." "I don't know what it is," Henry shouted back. "It's not wolfsbane. It's not silver nitrate. It's attacking his wolf directly. His healing factor isn't working. It's actually feeding the poison. It's an autoimmune agent. I've never seen this outside of—" He trailed off. "Outside of what?" Elara spoke up. Her voice was clear, cutting through the panic. Dr. Henry looked at her. "Historical texts. The Dark Alchemists used something like this during the Great War. It's called Nightshade 5. It was designed to kill alphas specifically." "Is there an antidote?" Marcus asked. "There is," Henry said grimly. "But the ingredients are extinct. The only other way to purge it is—" He shook his head. "No, it's a myth." "Say it," Elara commanded. She stepped forward, gently passing Leo to a nurse. "Take him to the playroom. Lock the door." "Elara," Marcus started. "Say it, doctor," Elara repeated. "An exchange of blood," Dr. Henry said quietly. "A transfusion, but not just any blood. It requires the blood of a solar wolf, a bloodline that was naturally resistant to dark magic. They were the healers of the old world." "The Blood Moon Pack," Marcus whispered. "They were known for that. That's why they were hunted. Their blood could cure anything, but it could also be harvested to make super soldiers." The room went silent. Everyone knew the Blood Moon Pack was extinct. Magnus Thorne had seen to that 10 years ago. Caleb convulsed on the table. The monitor flatlined for a second before beeping erratically. "He has maybe 10 minutes, Henry said, checking the pupils. "The black veins are reaching his brain." Elara walked to the table. She looked at Caleb. He looked so vulnerable, so different from the Titan who had stood on the bridge. She remembered how he had looked at her last night, not as a servant, but as a partner. He had offered her protection when he had every reason to exile her. She rolled up her left sleeve. "Prep a transfusion kit," Elara said. Dr. Henry looked at her confused. "Elara, you're an Omega. Your blood won't help. It might even cause a rejection reaction that kills him faster." "I said prep the kit," Elara said, her voice dropping an octave. She looked at Marcus. "Clear the room. Everyone except the doctor." "Elara, what are you doing?" Marcus asked. "I'm saving your Alpha. Now get out." The command carried a weight of authority that hit Marcus like a physical shove. His wolf whimpered and submitted instantly. He stared at the cleaning girl, his eyes widening. He nodded slowly and shooed the nurses out, closing the door behind him. "Elara." Dr. Henry held the needle, his hand shaking. "I am not Elara Vance," she said, looking at the scar on her arm. "My father was Alpha Orion Blackwood of the Blood Moon. My mother was a solar healer. My blood is what you need." Dr. Henry dropped the syringe. It clattered on the floor. "Princess Elara, but the fire—" "I survived," she said. "Now hook me up, before he does." Dr. Henry moved fast. He inserted a thick needle into the vein of her arm and connected the tube to Caleb's IV line. "This will hurt," Henry warned. "The draw needs to be fast. You'll feel weak. Just do it." The dark red blood began to flow through the clear tube. Elara watched her life essence travel from her body into Caleb's. The effect was instantaneous. As soon as her blood hit his system, Caleb gasped. His back arched off the table. A golden light seemed to flush under his skin, fighting the grey decay. The black veins on his chest stopped spreading. Then slowly they began to recede. Elara felt the drain immediately. Her vision swam. The room spun. She gripped the edge of the table. "That's enough," Henry said, reaching to stop the flow. "He's stabilizing. Any more, and you'll go into shock." "No," Elara whispered. "Not yet. The veins, they're still near his heart." "Elara, you're pale. Your heart rate is skyrocketing." "Keep going." She slumped forward, her forehead resting on Caleb's chest. She could hear his heart. Thump, 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 thump. It was getting stronger. Hers was getting weaker. Suddenly the lights in the hospital flickered. A boom echoed from the lobby. Gunfire. "What is that?" "Doctor." Henry froze. "They're here," Elara slurred, fighting to stay conscious. "Magnus, he didn't just leave. He left a cleanup crew." The door to the trauma room exploded inward. Two men in black tactical gear burst in. They wore gas masks and carried silenced pistols. They weren't wolves. They were human mercenaries, hunters. Dr. Henry threw himself in front of the table. "You can't be in here." The first mercenary pistol whipped the doctor, sending him crashing into the medical carts. The second mercenary aimed his gun at Caleb's unconscious body. "Target confirmed. Alpha Sterling, and—" He looked at Elara, who was still hooked up to the IV, barely conscious. "Well, well. Look at the bonus. The Blackwood girl." He raised his gun to Elara's head. Elara tried to move, but her limbs felt like water. She had given too much blood. She couldn't shift. She couldn't fight. "Say hello to your daddy," the mercenary sneered. Click. The hammer of the gun pulled back. But before he could pull the trigger, a low, bone-vibrating growl filled the room. It didn't come from Elara. The mercenary paused. Caleb's hand shot up. Even in his comatose state, his instincts had screamed. Mate in danger. Caleb didn't open his eyes. He didn't need to. His hand wrapped around the barrel of the mercenary's gun. With a sickening crunch, he crushed the steel like it was tin foil. "What the?" the mercenary shouted. Caleb sat up. The IV line ripped out of Elara's arm. His eyes snapped open. They weren't just amber anymore. They were glowing with a golden ring around the pupil, the sign of a wolf, enhanced by solar blood. "You touched her," Caleb said. His voice sounded like gravel grinding together. The mercenary dropped the broken gun and reached for a knife. Caleb backhanded him. The force of the blow sent the man flying across the room, smashing through the observation window and into the hallway. The second mercenary, the one who had hit the doctor, turned to run. Caleb was off the table in a blur. He grabbed the man by the back of his tactical vest and threw him against the wall. "Who sent you?" Caleb roared, pinning the man with one hand. The toxins were gone, replaced by a surge of power he had never felt before. "Thorn," the man wheezed. "It was Thorn," he said. "Kill the Alpha. Take the girl." Caleb dropped him. "Tell Thorn he missed." Caleb turned back to the table. Elara was sliding toward the floor, unconscious. He caught her before she hit the ground. He scooped her up into his arms, ignoring his own nudity, ignoring the blood splatter on the walls. He looked at her pale face, the bruise on her arm from the IV. "Dr. Henry," Caleb barked. The doctor groaned, pulling himself up from the floor. "I'm okay, Alpha." Henry coughed. "Check her," Caleb ordered, laying Alara gently back on the table. "She saved me. What did she do?" "She gave you a transfusion, Alpha," Henry said, wiping blood from his lip. "She's a Blackwood, a solar wolf. Her blood neutralized the poison, but she gave too much." Caleb brushed a strand of hair from Alara's forehead. He felt the bond slam into place, solid, unbreakable, and terrifyingly deep. She had literally poured her life into him. "Will she live?" Caleb asked, his voice trembling. "She needs rest and fluids. But yes, she's strong." Caleb leaned down and kissed her forehead. A spark of gold energy jumped between them. "Marcus!" Caleb yelled, his voice carrying through the shattered door into the hallway where the pack guards were finally arriving. Marcus ran in gun drawn, seeing the carnage. "Alpha, you're awake." "Secure the perimeter," Caleb ordered. "Lock down the entire territory. No one enters, no one leaves, and get the council on the line." "The council, sir. They won't help us against Thorn." Caleb turned, his golden-rimmed eyes blazing. "They will," Caleb said. "Because I'm not just reporting an attack. I'm claiming my birthright. And I'm announcing the return of the Blood Moon Princess. If Thorn wants a war, I'm going to give him a world war." He looked down at Alara. "He tried to kill my mate," Caleb whispered. "I'm going to burn his empire to ash." The sanctuary of the High Council was an ancient fortress of stone and judgment. Caleb entered the rotunda not as a defendant, but as an accuser with Alara at his side. She was no longer dressed as a maid. She wore crimson velvet, standing tall as a queen. Inside Alpha, Magnus Thorn was already charming the 12 elders, claiming Caleb had suffered a psychotic break and should be removed from power. "Objection!" Caleb's voice boomed, cutting through Magnus's lies. He threw a flash drive onto the high table. "I charge Magnus Thorn with high treason, attempted regicide, and the use of forbidden alchemy." Magnus scoffed, adjusting his suit. "Paranoia from a grieving mind. He has no proof." "I have the witness," Caleb challenged. Alara stepped into the light. Magnus's arrogant mask shattered into pure horror. He knew exactly who she was, the girl he thought he'd killed 10 years ago. "Alara Blackwood," he choked out. "The Blood Moon lives," Alara declared. She didn't just speak. She let her heritage answer. A blinding golden luminescence radiated from her skin. The undeniable mark of the extinct solar wolf line. The elders gasped, rising in awe. The proof was irrefutable. Realizing his political shield had crumbled, Magnus pulled a glass sphere from his jacket, a grenade of aerosolized wolfsbane. "Stay back," he screamed, holding the lethal gas high. "Anyone follows me, and this room becomes a tomb." He slammed the emergency exit shut, sprinting for his escape. "I invoke the Wild Hunt," Caleb roared at the stunned council. "Granted," the head elder yelled, banging his gavel. "He is open prey. Bring us his head." Caleb turned to Alara, his amber eyes glowing. "Together." They didn't wait for guards. They shifted into their wolves, bounding toward the mountains to finish what Magnus started. Magnus scrambled toward his waiting helicopter, desperate to escape the consequences of his treason. But he hadn't counted on the fury of a mated pair. Caleb and Alara shifted instantly. Caleb a massive midnight black beast, and Alara a sleek wolf glowing with radiant solar energy. They scaled the mountain cliff in seconds, moving as one mind. Just as the chopper lifted, Caleb lunged his jaws, crushing the metal skid and anchoring the machine with his immense weight. Alara used his back as a springboard, launching herself into the air to tackle Magnus out of the open door. They tumbled onto the concrete helipad, while the pilotless chopper spun out and exploded in the tree line below. Battered and bleeding Magnus reached for the glass sphere of concentrated wolfsbane in his pocket, but Caleb, back in human form, kicked it over the cliff edge. "It's over," Caleb growled, towering over him. Before Magnus could beg, the rhythmic thud of armored boots silenced him. King Alaric and the royal guard emerged from the mist. To Magnus's horror, the king didn't arrest the rogues. He knelt before Alara. "Princess Alara," Alaric declared, acknowledging the returned solar bloodline. "The world has been dark without your kind." The king stripped Magnus of his rank immediately. Though the law demanded death for his crimes, Alara intervened, her eyes burning with the queen's authority. "Death is too easy," she said, her voice cold as ice. "Let him rot in the dark beneath the mountain, knowing a cleaning girl now sits on his throne." The king agreed to the cruel mercy. As the royal guard dragged the screaming tyrant away to the dungeons, Caleb took Alara's hand. The war was won, and the true reign of the Silver Moon was just beginning. What a roller coaster of emotions. From a terrified maid hiding in the shadows, to a warrior queen commanding the respect of the king himself. Alara's journey proves that true power isn't about the crown on your head, but the courage in your heart. And let's not forget Leo, the little hero, who started a revolution just by knowing who really loved him. It's a reminder that sometimes children see the truth that adults are too blind to notice. Justice was served not with revenge, but with the restoration of honor. I hope you enjoyed this dramatic saga of the Silver Moon Pack. If this story touched your heart or kept you on the edge of your seat, please give this video a big thumbs up. It helps us create more stories like this for you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a part of our next series. Share this with a friend who loves a good werewolf romance with a twist. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next story.